Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this week's video, we are going to take a look at 5 ways you can use reverb creatively within your track, not just as a send or just to kind of add some space. We're going to look at ways that you can kind of dig a little bit deeper to kind of give your track a little bit more character. And the effects we're going to make today sound like this. So first up, we are going to look at reverse reverb. If you look at the screen, you can see I've got a bunch of stuff set up already just to make this process a little bit quicker, because I don't want to waffle on too much. I just want to kind of show you the techniques. You can take them away, add them to your little tool bag of things you can try within your tracks, and then hopefully maybe use one of them down the road. So I've got this little reverb, this little vocal track here, and that is just me singing. Just used a pitch correction, got it bang on, and just use this for more of those burial style vocals. It's really good for that. You can kind of get some good effects just if you use your own voice. So on it, I've got just a reverb, and then in the context of the rest of the music, and you can hear there, it gives that nice sort of ambience within the track. So let's go onto the track. We're going to take off the reverb for now. We're going to put it up to 100. Oh, sorry, we're going to put it up to, it's like 0 volume. And then we're going to just bounce this one in place. I'm going to go vocal. Now we've just got a copy of that. So now what we can do is we can come along, and then we're going to reverse the vocal. And now we have nice little reverse sort of sound. And we are going to put a super big reverb on it. So let's look at reverb. For this, I'm just using the built-in. You can use the built-in. It's more of effect as an effect rather than sort of giving it a lot of space and giving it that sort of real world space. So using the not best reverbs, it still works really well. So let's go in here. Got our reverb. Let's go wet to 100, and then decay. Let's go up to, we'll try 4. Go maybe a little bit more, and then let's just do a little bit of EQ there. Distance, we kind of increase that. That sounds pretty good, and we're only getting the sound of the reverb now. So actually, let's pull down the pre-delay. Yeah, it's pretty good. And maybe just adjust these a little bit more, and that's good enough for now. So now we have this reverb effect. So let's come along, and then we're going to bounce that in place. We can say verb. Gives us a nice sort of long reverb sort of sound. We can now mute out this one. And this is going to be the reverse. So we want to flip it around the other way. So we'll go function, reverse. Now we have the information down the back here. And I want, you can see we've got this loop here, the 8-bar loop. I want this to loop and then come back into this vocal here. So it takes a little bit of trial and error, but we can put that reverb back on. We can pull this back down to about -8-ish. Pull this down a little bit, and then we're just looking for, sorry, we don't want to mute them, we want to solo them. We want like a smooth transition between the two. So we can hear that this bit here is kind of where it's starting to come in. So and let's go in here. And let's bring the volume up a little bit on that. Let's just take a look at this reverb we got on there. We don't want that one on. Let's open this up. 100. Move that over a little bit more. Bring this volume up just a hair. Let's see how it sounds in the context. We want to down a little bit, and I would even go as far as to put a little bit extra reverb on that, and then a little delay, and this is going on the actual reverb track. So we go to delay, tape delay. Let's go for a quarter feedback and just bring this down a little bit. Kind of helps just sort of blend them a little bit better. So we can select them both, bring up the mixer, and then just bring these down a little bit in the mix. And there you go, it kind of gets that nice swell between the two. This works really well, obviously, with actual words rather than just a held note, but it's the same principle. We've got the actual vocal, bounced it, so we have a copy of it, reversed it, add the reverb, reverse that back again to the right way, find that sort of sweet spot where it comes in, add a little bit more reverb and delay, and you get that nice sort of blend between the two. And there you go. Number two that I want to show you is using a compressor to kind of compress the reverb signal. So when the vocal is being played, we get like a nice compressed reverb, but then when the vocal stops, the reverb tail goes out. So this effect on its own, we can just bring these back in. And you can hear that volume sort of pick up again. And the reverb gets clamped down again, and then becomes louder again. So there's a couple of steps to setting this up. We want to have a bus for a trigger. So then when we adjust the volume, that's not going to adjust that trigger volume at all because we're just sending the full amount to that. And then we want to have another bus set up with the reverb and the compressor and everything like that. So this one, I've just got it set to bus 16. I'm going the full amount to that bus. And then this is the bus 16. And then you can see I've changed it to no output. So when I play, this isn't being heard at all. This is just a trigger to use with the compressor, same way you would use sidechain compression. Next up, we have the actual sort of effects bus. And in this, I just have the Valhalla, just using, I think I used one of the presets and then just kind of tweaked it a little bit, adding more decay to kind of give it a little bit more tail on there. And then I've got an EQ just taking out any of the mud. And then lastly, the compressor. So the compressor is working fairly hard. So if I just solo just the reverb effect, you can see when the vocal, the dry vocal is coming in, lots of compression, and then the compression dies off, and then we're getting that effect through. So the way that I've got this set up is I've got bus 16 is the trigger. I've just got that set up there. So that's the sidechain input. Threshold is pretty low at like just below -30. Have a pretty high ratio. So the ratio is whatever's going over that ratio, it's folding it by that amount. So we got 5.8 to 1. So it's almost 6 times that it's reducing that. Relatively slow attack and slow release because we want that effect to come in gradually. We don't want that compressor to kind of squash it and then release it out really quickly. So you can see there, and it helps a little bit more for mixing as well. You don't have this reverbed vocal sort of eating up a lot of space. So if I come along and then play in the context of the track, and then boosting it up again. That compressor is going to come on again. And then it's going to die down again. Nice little effect to give you a little bit more space with your mix, but then also add a little bit more ambience into those parts where the vocal isn't being sung. So again, all we did to set that up, we've got the trigger channel where I've sent the full amount and then turned off the output so we can't hear that trigger being sent. And then we have our effects bus, which has got the reverb. It's got the EQ to take out that little bit of mud. And then the actual compressor, which is adding the whole effect. And the cool thing also is I have this volume controller here. So if I don't want to send as much of the vocal to that reverb channel, I have a little bit more control without changing the compressor or anything like that because we're using the trigger. And again, all in context. Number 3 is kind of piggybacking off the one that we just talked about, but this is adding a gate on top of everything else. So it gives us more of a rhythmic reverb sound. If I solo that out, we can hear that reverb still with the gate going. And again, for this, I've got just the reverb being sent to, got the Valhalla again, pretty much the same preset. I don't have the compressor squashing it down while the dry signal is being sent. We just had the reverb going the whole time. And then after it, I use this free plugin rather, and it's just a transgate. So you can hear it in effect. If I take that off, it just goes to the standard. Kind of adds a little bit more to the track with not just having the drums being the main sort of rhythmic element. This is kind of that subconscious sort of rhythm element in the background. So there you go. Number 4 is using a pitch shifter on the reverb signal. So for this, we've just got this clap, and if we take that off, very sort of short clap, not really doing too much. And I've got it going to just a reverb send, as you'd expect. For this, I have the chroma verb with 100% wet. And then I've got two different variations. So we have the pitch shift. If I play it now, you can use the controls to kind of write in your own automation. But if you want something a little bit more hands-off, is we have this, opens up. We have this reverb and it has a built-in pitch, and we can change it that way. So we have the filter sort of giving it that sort of change. And that's the thing that I love about the analog rhythm, is with the trig locks, you can really kind of dial in those changes to the reverb per hit. This is a good way that you can do it. You can kind of write in your own automation to give the reverb its own life within your track, kind of give it its own sort of space. Make it a little bit more than just a reverb send. And in the context of the track, doesn't overpower the mix at all. It just kind of gives a little bit more interest, and something you could just write a uneven amount of automation. So the automation happens every 5 bars or 7 bars or something like that. And then you copy and paste it. So then it's always going to be slightly different every time the hit comes around. And the fifth and final one is using reverb to introduce different parts. So for this, I've just got a whole drum loop that we've been listening to throughout these sort of examples. And then I have the same drum loop, but I am using reverb as a way to introduce that section, almost making it sound like you're outside of the club and then you're coming into the club. So for this, I have a reverb on there with 100% wet. And then I also have a filter, but we'll show the filter in a second. And then for the, let's just show an example of what I mean. Outside of the club, get into the front of the line, and you're walking into the club. So for those with a keen eye, you'll notice that we have a lot of automation going on down here. Changing that dry and wet amount. And then we come into the track. So for this, if we open up the automation, we'll go over to dry. You can see I'm starting at halfway within the loop. Same with the wet, starting at halfway. And then we're kind of getting this crossover point about 3/4 of the way through, as it's slowly shifting from a wet to a signal to a dry signal, and then it introduces the element. And then just kind of add a little bit more sort of finesse over the top of it. We have the fab filter. This is a super good, like, I really like this filter because it's really, really simple. Obviously all of your DAWs have really good filters, but I like this one because it's just, there's no fluff. It just does what it needs to do. So I've just got that going, just giving us a low pass all the way up. So if we play all of them together, And there we go. Hopefully you got something out of these and you kind of put these tips and tricks into your own little tool bag and then maybe use them in your track. And yeah, that's about it. Hopefully this has inspired you to create something today. Until next time, see you later.